and I'm about to show off my work, what I do. I work out of a suitcase over here. You can see that there already? Wow. My own traveling feeder because the outer part becomes the feeder. Let's see. So we got this guy. He's very loose. You know, I throw him at the kids.
¿Todo bien?
High 5,000.
Bien, bien, todo bien.
Boom. How about you? Want a hug, Dad?
So this is the silly scare kid.
What's his job? He's got to scare away the what? What kind of birds? Scarecrow, rat. Do you think he ever scared any crows? You know what happened with me and them crows? They took one look at this sweet little face and they didn't get scared. Instead, this is what they did. They started flying right at the farm. They started flying right at me.
I was going to school, very expensive school for film, but it wasn't even film, it was cinema studies. So I was interested in critiquing movies and stuff. And then like towards the later, you know, junior, senior year, I started to get worried because I realized I didn't like to write. So I started taking like more hands-on courses in theater. And one of the courses I took was with Ralph Lee, puppeteer, famous for the Halloween parade. He was one of the people big in starting the Halloween parade. So I took a course and actually like that head that I showed you I had made way back when over there, the William S. Hart heads. Actually I have another head that's not here, a Pinocchio head with its nose becoming a tree. That's at my mother's work. But anyway, I took a course with him and I started making little puppet heads and getting into it because I was always into visual art. But I was really into this because I was like, wow, this is a visual art that's alive. So that's how I got into it relatively late in like junior, senior year of college, which is kind of late for a puppeteer. The area I set up as a stage, it's very like this thing I'm standing on. Dumpty. They can get messed up and that would stop everything, but uh-oh. Oh, where's he now? He might be tangled. Let's see if he can do this. Oh! Yeah. And what he does, his basic thing, is he does a little bit of this. He does some juggling. Uh-oh! Look at that. He's embarrassing me because it's getting stuck. That's what happens with strings. Are you okay now? I'm going to have to fix him up now. The other thing he attempts to do is put it on his head. So, hold on, let me see. There he goes. On his head. And then, you know, that proves how balanced he is. Because of his New Balance. And then the kids proceed to turn him around over and over to see just how balanced he is. He's actually been on Fox News. They were doing a live shot while I was in Washington because Fox News was having an interview with Newt Gingrich. So it's very funny that they went to a shot of this, and I wouldn't have known about it unless my parents had phoned me up and said, "You're on the news right now, you're live," because I went to an event in Washington called a Million Puppet March, which was based on the remark that who's the guy running for Romney, where he said that he would cut PBS funding even though he liked Big Bird. Yeah. So there's him, and then there's one more. So let me see him. Okay. Oh, in this staging area. She's gonna even. She, you know, once I made him, I wanted to have somebody who would try to outdo him in terms of tricks. So yes.
You made this puppet?
Yeah, they're all made, you know, balloons and paper mache, these egg ones, and so she has 2 eggs that she juggles, and with her the kids take the eggs and they put it in the mouth. They put the other one in the mouth, and once she has it in the mouth, she's a superstar, because I say all big stars have big teeth. And I say she's the one and only Lady Gaga. So she tries to sing her Lady Gaga song, which I'm ashamed to say I really don't know that song, but you don't really have to know it. You know, I don't know all the great lyrics, but you know, she sings her uh-oh, you see, and of course she's not working with it. You know, and it keeps popping out. And the kids keep putting it back in, and it keeps popping out.
I'm afraid Lady Gaga can't be helped. She's doing too much what? And she's not doing enough what? That's right. So maybe she should find a new home for the eggs. Maybe they should live in her nose? In her eyes?
You know, we try different places to put it, like let's say in the nose. That doesn't work. How about in the eye? That doesn't work.
Okay, it was your idea making earrings. Is it good?
So what they do is they put it, she's going to do it herself even though the kids do it. Makes it into an earring. Makes it into an earring.
Wow.
She goes on with her act. She's accessorizing.
Now that's what I'm saying. Now she's accessorizing. So, are you ready to see her? In action.
Actually, this is a good chance for me to talk about. He started with the election in 2008, so I was able to have him as a candidate. But what ended up happening, you know, was such a hot election at the time that in the last week, I couldn't take him out anymore. People were getting angry, you know, for one reason or another. And the actual night that Obama won the election, we got kicked out of a place. Oh, wow. They didn't want to see this thing because it was also a white egg. So people were starting to think it was McCain and stuff like that. And he actually sort of debuted at the Easter parade. So I will be at the Easter parade again because, you know, I think that was one of the main reasons he came about is I was trying to think of, well, number one, what is the simplest kind of puppet I could make that I don't have to make body part by body part, you know, because his whole body is an egg, number one. You know, even though there are arms and legs, there's, you know, if I was making like a more human looking, it would be a lot more work, I thought. So I thought this would be the easiest one to begin with. And also, I always did stuff at the Easter parade, so I thought this would be the perfect kind of thing for the Easter parade. It's not even really a parade, it's just people marching back and forth on closed streets, and a lot of street entertainers set up. So that was the excuse to make it. He's 2008. She's like about a year later. I like it when the kids do something inappropriate. You know, like I usually performing for all these kids, and I perform near where they sell food. But there were these bunch of kids one day, very fancy dressed for kids, like it was the summer, and they were long dresses that went all the way down, and like all these chains and stuff, and very wild kids, and I was performing for them, and I made a couple of jokes that all turned out to be true. Like, I find that the wildest kids come from Long Island. They don't come from the city. So I made that joke, and the parents were like, yeah, they are from. And then I made a joke about gypsies because of the way they were dressed. They were gypsies. And they didn't get mad. They just thought it was very funny because as soon as they said that, I started going to my money like this. And they were like, now that he knows we're gypsies, you see, he's protecting the money. And so the thing is I did my act. And at the end of it, they were like, now our girls, because there was about, like, I don't know how many, 4 of them at least, different ages. They were like, now they'll do something for you. And they sang me a song. All these gypsy girls from about around age, I don't know, 4 to 14, had this whole choreography going that was taught to them by their parents. It must be Lipstick on Your Collar. So, this is a song from like 1960. These little girls are singing, they were like, lipstick on your collar, and then all it was, told a tale on you. This one, which ended up being the most popular one, came about the same time because I was trying to sell a product. I was trying to come up with a paper marionette. So I actually still have like a DVD I made with a friend of mine, showing how to put it together and stuff, because my friend had a video production company, so he was glad to do it for me to prove to people what he could do, and then I would have that video. But it never took off because I would have to be like selling the stuff at the same time. Right. So it's kind of weird. I never expected this guy, so he's very...
Does he have his own
capitalistic commercial?
Does he have his own like voice or anything like that, or does he do like do you?
I'm like,
or you?
Well, you know what? It's hard for me to get into unless there's kids, but he has sort of a dopey voice whenever I want to. Well, actually, I always try to make him have like Humpty Dumpty is more of like this voice. Like I want it to be somebody who's like almost like noses running. And like he has like a New Yorker Jewish sort of thing.
Does he have anything he can share? What can I share? With who? How about you? Have an egg? Have an egg? Yeah, you can take the egg out of his head. You know why I like to share? Because then I get it back again.
If a person reacted to me in a certain way in the street, I would change things because it's to me, I'm money oriented. I'm doing this to make my living. For instance, I'll give you an example of me changing things, because I am stubborn, but I will change things eventually. Like when he started out, my Humpty Dumpty puppet, I didn't even call him Humpty Dumpty, I called him Shelly Sunnyside. And a lot of times the adults would come with their kids and they go, oh, look, it's Humpty Dumpty. And I go, oh no, it's Shelly Sunnyside. And, and they'd sort of like get a little like, And I was like, no, I'm gonna stick to my guns. This is Shelly Sunnyside. One day I was doing it, some homeless guy was like, look, it's Humpty Dumpty. And I was like, no, it's Shelly Sunnyside. He was like, don't tell me, I know who Humpty Dumpty. And it turned into a yelling match. And it was funny because where I was performing, because originally where I was performing in Central Park, it was around all the artists. That's where I started out performing. So believe me, they didn't like me being there. So that was another challenge. That's a whole different story. So they saw this, and it just made me laugh because I was like, give the people what they want.
I see 2 volunteers over here. Okay, we're going to put you down here. We're going to stay to see it. Yeah, you can come right up there, sit right down. Get yourself a seat, start a trend. Now the ex-girlfriend came a long way to be here, from Yoklahoma. Are we in Yoklahoma today? Where are we today? New York City, exactly. She came here to do a little bit of dancing.
The way I advertise, it's like a carnival barker or somebody trying to sell a newspaper, because it's like extra, see all about it, step right up and catch an egg, live and in the shell and back together again. And then if I see a kid, it'll be like, hey, where you been? I've been waiting for you here all day. You can't do this to me. Don't you know who I am? And then I'll be like, he doesn't know who you are. He knows who I am. He's kept me waiting. Don't you know who I am? And the kid will be like, Humpty Dumpty. Yeah, I'm a great big what? And the kid will say egg, and I'll be like, yeah, so I could make a big stink. You keeping me waiting. Is this a big egg in my hand? No. This is a little egg. This is my little cousin. You know what his name is? Humpty Clumpty. And so that's how the act starts. And, I put this stuff in. I don't know if it's going to be successful, so I keep in stuff like Humpty Clumpty because people like that.
I'm not believing this. We practiced for like 15 minutes. Here we go. Yeah. Hey! Excellent. Don't take that from her. You like that. Look at that. How about you? You want egg on the leg? Ah, egg on the leg? How about, oh, extra large? And then you end up with
So yeah, that's his voice.
And him, I try to make more like, you know, like a dopey, like sort of like a Clinton-esque type of, you know, that's his voice. But for some reason it's hard for me to get into unless I'm telling the story. But you know, because I'm not really a voice actor. It's funny, a lot of puppeteers actually start out like that. Like a lot of the puppeteers I worked with when I first started were people who were hoping to be in radio, and they got in on it a little too late. They came of age in the 50s. So I guess the next step was puppetry, because you could be hidden and stuff and still do your thing. I just, you know, when I had a little time, I made this based on somebody I knew or know.
I mean, he looks.
Yeah, yeah. He actually, like, if I showed you, like, because I posted this, and it was funny because people who knew him was like, "Is that guy's?" Like, "Yep." And why this would work for TV is, nah. He can move his mouth. Hello. You know, but he can, the way I have him, his head goes upward. So I have other puppets that just the bottom would open, and I'm trying to actually make one right now that you could, from a string you pull, it could either be the top or the bottom. Well, actually, this is the first kind of thing I made a long time ago. You know, it's an homage to,
Wow.
I don't know if you know who this is.
It looks like a sort of horror head. I don't know who.
Tom Neal from Detour?
This is William S. Hart.
I don't know who that is. Tell us.
Yeah, he's buried in Brooklyn. I heard. I've often thought of visiting his grave.
A cowboy movie actor from the early days of cinema.
Yeah. So he was like big circa 1915 till about 1920. So he was one of these guys that was showing the West as it really was. He was going to go out there and show the way it really was. He was a stage actor who was having a hard time. He was actually in the original Ben-Hur as the villain. I don't know what the name of that was, but he... Masala, yeah, that was probably it. And, you know, he just made it in movies because he had this background. He had been living in the West for a while. Like, one of the things is he could speak Indian languages and stuff. This is how much I like this guy.
Wow.
But I don't consider it successful because, you know, this is like an ultra-realistic, like, with William S. Hart, it would help if it was like a caricature. Because his face was, like, so long. And he would have an even longer hat that would make his face, like, even double the length. You know? But he had like a very chiseled face, and like if you want to see something good by him, Hell's Hinges, which is now on YouTube, where he's like almost like a Terminator guy, and he gets pissed off and burns down the whole town basically, you know, and has no remorse. And like I've seen a little of it recently, and he says sort of thing like, "You brought it upon yourselves, you deserve." And I remember at a certain point, like, what's it called, like a cross is burning, and I like him because of his intensity. He's very yeah. This is the guy I came up with him for teaching at schools because I teach puppetry. So he's a hand and rod puppet, and he's made from a plastic soup ladle with a foam ball put there, and this is just, you know, so I just, you know, like the shows I've put on with kids, we've had them do, "Am I a person or am I a puppet? Am I a puppet?" Something like that. If I'm a puppet, I'm a very, so let's say, angry puppet. And then he would say why he was angry. "I remember a time I felt angry." See, now I have to think of a time. "I got smacked in the head, but I got up again, yeah. Nobody can keep me down, yeah." So that would be like the short stories they would tell
one by one, a 3-sentence story. So, but he's been successful. I brought him to the schools over and over again to excite the kids about doing this. And just last week we had like all kinds of movement exercises, you know, to songs I was making up to see what the kids could do, you know, to give them a little bit of control. So I think like teaching them about puppets maybe teaches them control.
You put the glue on it and then you slap the paper on, and then you have the outer shell that you can decorate and put a face on. Or
this is a foam ball, and there's actually different types of foam, I found out. But there's a kind of foam, the cheaper one is better because, what is it called? It doesn't go inside the thing, it stays on the thing, so it's very easy to put paper on it. And, you know, you wouldn't even have to come up with a drawing. It's just like little pieces, and I would start with the eyes. It's very important to make the eyes visible and big. The only thing about this is its mouth does not move, you know, so I don't know how. I mean, that's really a TV thing about the mouth moving, has developed with TV since it's so...
Well, that other one you showed us, it was like the kind of mouth the Muppets have. And when I saw the head go up, I thought, well, that reminded me of a lot of the Muppets. And I guess they have the ability for the bottom half to open and also for the top half. So.
Well, they try to actually force themselves to not move the upper part so much, to try to move the bottom part. But even when I see it on TV, it seems like it's kind of challenging. There's always like a little movement on the top and stuff. So that's not exactly a... Well, but I do have a Muppet here, but it wasn't made by me. You know, I've used this as at auditions for Muppet-like stuff, and I've never gotten parts doing Muppets because it's a kind of skill you have to learn, because you have to keep it within the camera. And also a lot of those people, they look at the camera and it's going in the opposite direction. So it's like something you have to get used to. So like going to something like that cold is not so easy. So like usually when I've taken this guy, it's been to sing Louie, Louie, ah, said me gotta go. Yeah, 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 yeah. So that's the type of thing I've done at every audition. They're hand and rod puppets, but the mouth is movable. And I don't know if you go back in history, I don't think it was a usual thing to make the mouths move, because it used to be a theater thing where people were far back, so it didn't matter. Like Punch and Judy, their mouths never moved. So I'd have to research it when moving mouths came in, but it was important to TV where you could see everything up close. You know, so I'm sure that made it very important to have movable mouth puppets. My main experience has been on the stage and with marionettes. So I'm not on the stage, I'm above on a bridge working the marionettes. So my experience has been at different children's theaters and different shows being put on, but they don't usually, they're not all war horse. They don't last and last and last, and actually something like that, like a war horse, wouldn't be my main type of thing to do, because it seems like a lot of puppet things are starting to go to non-puppet people, like dancers, because if you have a war horse thing, you're using your whole body. And I don't really like those. I mean, I've done it, I would do it again, those like big puppet things, because like I've worked on things that are big puppet things where in order just to make one hand move, you have to use your whole body. You know, it's funny, when I tried out for that place, you know, because this is the second year in a row that I tried out, I didn't think I would get the job. You know, so when they called me, I was just kind of surprised, and I was like very honest with them, and I said, I don't know if this is what I really want to do, and ever since you told me I have the job, and they were like, well, just come over and see what happens, because they need a lot of puppeteers, because those people, they go on the road, they have their own place, but it's, you know, it's marionettes, it's strings. I'm way up high there on a bridge, so it's higher than I usually am and bigger than I'm usually used to working with. But I've ended up staying there for a couple of months because I really wanted to be part of Pippi Longstocking. There are a lot of puppeteers who are the only puppeteer of their show. They do it all. You know, it's a way of a performer doing it all, being the one who builds the stuff, performs with the stuff, you know, does all the voices, and a person who has the desire to do that, it's because they want the control. My main gig is doing my own stuff on the street for birthday parties, so, you know, which is not an easy life. You gotta really be into it, you know, you gotta really be self-motivated, and like other puppeteers, they're not the same way. They like sort of halfway it, and also I've been at it for a long time.
And to dance like her, you need to have strong, what? Powerful legs, flexible legs. Not only legs, but moves. Do you see the moves?